and I represent House District 13, which is the lovely seaside community of Old Orchard Beach.
Excellent. And Representative Hanley.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Senator. I'm Jeff Hanley. I represent District 87, which is Pittston, Alna, Westcasset, and Randolph.
And Representative Krajicek.
Good morning. I'm Ted Krajicek. I represent District 20, Acton, Lebanon, part of Shapley, and I'm the House Republican lead on the Tax Committee.
Excellent. Representative Matlack.
Good morning. I'm Ann Matlack. I represent House District 92, which includes the communities of Cushing, Thomaston, South Thomaston, St. George, Matinicus, Cree Haven, and the Muscle Ridge Islands.
And Representative Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. I'm Joe Perry. I represent part of Bangor and part of Orono in the main house.
And Representative Sachs.
Good morning. My name is Melanie Sachs. I represent House District 48, which is Freeport and part of Pownell. Thank you.
All right. And Representative Terry.
I am Representative Mo Terry. I represent District 26, which is the west side of Gorham, and I serve as House Chair. And I believe Representative Bickford has joined us.
Good morning, Representative Bruce Bickford. I represent House District 63, which is part of Auburn.
Great. And I'm Senator Ben Chipman. I serve as Senate Chair of the committee. I represent Senate District 27, which is part of the city of Portland. I'd also like to introduce Avery Page, who's our committee clerk, as well as Julie Jones, who's our committee analyst. So we're going to start work sessions today. You all should have received a chart from Julie that has all the bills on there that we're going to be working today. We'll, I guess we will start with the cabotage bill, which is LD 188, sponsored by Senator Jackson. Would you like to walk us through this, Julie?
Sure. Before I start, I want to take you on a very brief treasure hunt first. I'm going to share there's a new way to access information that you have available to you today, and I just want to show you how to do it real quickly. So if it's okay, I'm going to share my screen. And why am I not? Okay, here we go. Can you see the legislative website now? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. If you go to the usual way to get to the committee materials page, going on the website through committees, and this is available not only to legislators but to anybody else who might be listening as well. You click on committees, go to taxation, and click up here at the top on committee materials. It will take you to the Taxation Committee materials page. If you look down here under bill analysis, you'll see 3/4/2021 bill chart. This is the first time that we've posted the bill chart online for you, but if you have trouble accessing, it will be emailed ahead of time to committee members. But if you have trouble accessing it that way or can't find your email, it will be on the committee information page, and members of the public will be able to access it that way as well. The other thing I wanted to show to you is this. We're starting to list materials by LD. So for instance, one of the bills you'll be working on this morning is LD 146, which Maine Revenue Services brought a proposed amendment to the work session for you. So that has been posted on here. The other thing I wanted to show you is if, let me see if back is going to work for me. I should have done this before we went to that page, but on the committee page, now this is the one that has the committee materials at the beginning. When you look down here under, it'll show you, for instance, March 4th, you have a work session on the bills that you have a work session on today. Over on the left at the bottom of each LD, you'll see a plus sign and it'll say testimony, one item. I'll do more than one. For instance, if we click on LD 188, the first one you're going to hear, there's 16 items on that one. If you click on the plus sign, you can access the testimony that was submitted on that bill. So if you're looking for, if anyone is looking for testimony on that bill, that is the way, that is a way to access it. There are many ways to do it actually, or several ways to do it. Anyway, that's just what I wanted to show you. And I don't know, are there any questions about that, or should I just move on to LD 188 now?
Yeah, I don't see any questions.
Yeah,
I just
okay.
Yeah.
LD 188 is President Jackson's bill, an act regarding the transportation of products in the forest products industry. This
Julie,
is-
just sorry to cut you off. Is there any way you can share the chart on the screen so we can see that? As we're going
Sure,
through?
hold on.
Thank you. There's some notes on there that we may want to be able to see while we're on Zoom, and it's hard to look at two things. at once.
Okay, share screen. That one. You got the chart?
I think so, yeah. We just got to scroll down to get to 188.
Yes. Is it big enough, or do you want me to see if I can enlarge it?
I mean, if you can make it any bigger, that would be good. I mean, I can sort of read it, but it's a little small. But.
There was a place to enlarge it before.
Right-hand corner,
On the
Julie.
bottom, yeah. On the bottom corner,
Bottom corner.
bottom right-hand corner.
There it is. Thank you for reminding me. I knew there was one. Whoa, that's too much.
Yeah, that's probably good there. So here we are, 188. Great.
Okay. Yes. So this is an act regarding the transportation of products in the forest products industry. This bill would require that owners and managers of log yards and mill sites present a copy of a trip ticket to a forest ranger in the log yard or mill site upon request. It adds a requirement related to the transportation of forest products by providing that a landowner of 50,000 or more acres of forest land in the state may not allow the transportation of forest products harvested on the landowner's land from a location in the state to another location in the state in violation of federal law or regulation. This is what is frequently referred to as cabotage. Federal law prohibits the transportation by a foreign individual of United States products from one location in the United States to another location in the United States. It's okay if they transport things from, for instance, Canada to the United States or from the United States to Canada, but if it's going from one point in the United States to another point in the United States, the federal law requires that that be done by a United States person. It also provides that a landowner with 2 prior violations of the transportation requirement would be ineligible for classification of the landowner's land under the tree growth tax law, current valuation. And it provides that that landowner with the 3rd violation may not receive essentially state tax or funding benefits from the state of Maine. They would not be eligible for Better Betty income tax credits or state grants or other state funding. A similar bill, LD 2061, was presented in the 129th legislature in the 2nd regular session. It was, you could tell from the number, it was considered late in the session, and although the committee had voted on it, it the amendment was not prepared in time for it to be reported out of committee before the rapid adjournment last session due to the COVID situation. It was eventually the legislative council or presiding officers, I'm not sure which, directed that all bills in that situation actually be reported out of committee in August last year, when it was anticipated that the legislature might have a special session to deal with those bills that were remaining at the end of the regular session. As you know, there was no special session, so the bill was reported out to the Senate, but the Senate has never met since. The Senate of the 129th has not met, did not meet after that point. So it died in the possession of the Senate when the 129th expired. The sponsor suggested some changes in his testimony at the public hearing. You have access to that either electronically or if you printed a version. I put a link on here where you can access that testimony. On page 2 and 3 of that testimony, he suggested some changes. He did not have specific language, but the testimony describes the changes, which I can mention if you want me to. Or I think he may be here, so you might want to ask him about them in case he's had any changes to them since the public hearing. But it's indicating that he is suggesting that the prosecuting authority for a landowner's violations of cabotage should be housed in the Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry, and that language prohibiting the transport should be directed in a way that the landowner positively affirms that the transport is legal, that the length of removal of the landowner from the tree growth tax law for 3 violations should be for 2 years. I think that was not specified in the bill. That the language on the loss of state awarded grants or funding should be clarified to mean only business grants or state funding, and the disqualification would only be for 2 years. There were many questions, and I know you have a lot of people interested in this bill who are in your waiting room. So to the extent you have questions, I will do my best, but there's a lot of confusion in my mind, at least, around what exactly is going on with regard to this bill. So hopefully the experts in the field can help you better than I.
Yeah, so can we let Senator Jackson in and ask if he has any additional information he'd like to provide to us? And then
I'll let him in right now.
Then we can hear from Bill Graves and Don Mancius.
Mr. Chair, I have my hand up and I have a question for Julie.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Representative Bickford.
Julie, can you tell us what the vote was last year on this bill? Even though it didn't get reported out of committee, you must have a vote tally.
I did look it up, and I just have to find where I wrote it down. Well, I'm not sure, but I'll look it up again real quick and have it for you in a minute or two.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great, Julie. Is Senator Jackson with us now?
Yep, he's in.
Senator Jackson, welcome.
Hello.
Yep, go for it. You're on.
You want me to answer a question, or?
Well, I just wanted to ask if you had any additional information to provide to us. If not, that's fine. We just wanted to, if you had an opportunity to provide any additional information, if you have any.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. So, I mean, you know, I watched the entirety of the workshop or the public hearing, and I'm always struck by the idea that you for active name loggers and truckers, it's a constant refrain that times are tough and there's not enough money for rates to increase. But it seems like there's an awful lot of money that are awful lot of people that are making money off of the people who are actually doing the job. And certainly I heard testimony of that yesterday. I didn't realize it was going to get into a conversation about the H2 program. But I mean, I listened to that and I was a little dismayed about the history of it. I know this history very, very well because, being an active logger, I've had to deal with it throughout my time. Some of the, if you had people, I think you have people in the waiting room that are bonding agents, and so they only make money if they can bring in H2 workers. It's absolutely no benefit to them to hire U.S. workers because they don't get paid to bring in U.S. workers. They get paid to bring in H2 workers. And this whole thing of H2A, H2B, the reason why that happened, my entire life up until 2005, we were considered H2B workers. And in 2005, Tom Ridge was the first acting director of Homeland Security. When he came in, he decided to enforce the cap on H2B workers, which is just over 65,000 H2B workers at any one time in the United States. And because of that time, logging was in with apple pickers, blueberry workers, people that work in hotels, chambermaids and things like that. The southern states were getting all the H2 workers before us here in Maine because their season started earlier than the traditional logging season starts in June. And the cap was being hit of over 65,000. So whenever Canadian companies wanted to bring in Canadian workers in June, the cap was already met. And so in 2006, 2007, 2008, in those years, for the first 3 months of the logging season, there was no H2B workers working in the Maine woods. And it was great. It was great for us. We had people that were working in areas of Maine that we were never able to get into before, and we were able to actually negotiate what we considered fairer rates than ever before. But the landowners didn't like that. They didn't like the fact that they didn't have their cheaper labor to come in and depress wages, things like that. So like what happens often, they were able to lobby Washington. Whereas Maine loggers didn't have that same ability. I mean, certainly not to the same extent. They were able to lobby Washington, and Senator Snow at the time and Senator Collins passed a rider on the Afghanistan war budget that made H2B workers logging that was in H2B switched over to H2A, and there is no cap in H2A. So overnight we went from logging to farming, because it was a benefit to the landowners to have no cap and bring in as many as they wanted at any one time. So that's how we got to be H2A workers. After the first 30 years of my life having to deal with H2B workers, and H2B workers came from the World War II, when it was accurate that there wasn't very many people that was in this country because they were all fighting foreign wars, and apples, broccoli, all those things would spoil the field if they weren't picked. And so that's how that program had actually started. The result of that was right at that time, I mean, we were working right up until September, which is the end of the quarter. When that law changed, we had to go. We were told to leave. Some of the people that I was actually working with before that were true visa workers got their H2 workers back, and we were told that we had to leave even though we'd been working there up to that point for 3 months previous.
Yep.
The other thing that I heard during that was that this is not an easy program to violate. Representative Martin is in here sitting with me now. I mean, he has an even longer history on it, but for the last 20 years, I sit in this office today basically because of this issue. I mean, to say that this hasn't been violated, I can give you so many cases of it happening. There was a long period that one of the camps for Blanchette was completely Canadian workers in that camp. At that time, there was actually a union in the logging industry, and they were able to lower the rate of the federal prevailing rate under what it was actually being paid. And the way that they did that was they said that the union rate actually prevails over the state prevailing wage rate. And so for years, that Canadian camp had a rate that was being paid there that was actually lower than what the Fed said had to be the federal prevailing wage rate. And we argued that for years that was a violation, that at no time should the union rate actually go below the floor of the federal prevailing wage rate. And after a long time, and a lot of, tracing this and putting yourself in line, the federal government came in and said, yes, you're absolutely right. That is not correct. You can't supersede the federal prevailing wage rate. You can go higher, but you can't go lower. We've had consistent times where owners, business owners have applied. They've given PO boxes as their place of work. You're supposed to apply to a PO box. We were able to petition the federal government finally after a long time, and they ruled that you can't have a PO box. You have to have a place of business in the United States so that workers have a place to actually go and apply for work. So what did they turn around and do? They found shacks along the border and used that as their place of business. And some of these reports that the Maine Forest Service actually has pictures of them. I have pictures of them, but I guess I'm not supposed to show you guys pictures or slides or anything like that anymore. So I won't do that, but you can request them, I imagine. But these.
No, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome to present anything like that. There's nothing that prohibits that I'm aware of. But
excuse me, Mr. Mayor, we've discussed in Legislative Council that photos and videos are not to be shown in committee meetings.
Wow.
No, Senator Pouliot. We discussed it. We did not have a decision on that, and I will argue vehemently that at no time can you not show a photo. But anyways, we'll just go on because I know where you're going to be on this bill.
Yeah, let's move on, but we should come back to that at some point. But I don't agree with that. But go ahead, Senator Jackson.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yep, go ahead, Representative Gramlich.
Respectfully, I don't want to debate what we can and can't do in work sessions or in public hearings, but I guess I'd like to request if the Senate President could email us that information. I'd be very interested in seeing it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, if you could do that, Senator Jackson, maybe just send us any videos and photos that you have on email so we can look at those. That'd be great.
Yeah, well, I appreciate, some of you actually wanting the evidence, but I'll get it to you. The other thing that, about that though, was that, so when they set up these scam offices along the border and stuck signs up on them, that was where you were supposed to go. And like I said, Forest Service has got documentation of these scam places. This summer when I took the Bangor Daily up there, one of the business owners had signs on the business saying this was the phone number. We called the business right there and asked for work. And they said, well, come in and file an application. And I said, well, I'm at your place of business. I'm right here. I'm in the yard. And they said, well, no, you're not. There are place of businesses in Quebec. And so as a U.S. worker, you have to go to Canada to file for an application to get these jobs. There was another time that they argued that when you see on these applications, the places that they're actually going to be working, they're all in Somerset County, Aroostook County, Penobscot County. One time I was asked to go to Washington County to file an application, a place of business that they didn't have. So this idea that these things are not being violated, they're being violated all the time. One of these companies, I believe the sign is on the wall of the bonding agent in Fort Kent, G. Lavoie. That's not where G. Levois operates, but they have their sign up as supposedly that's their place of business in Fort Kent. The applications that G. Levois has filed this logging season has got Michael Levois is one of the bonded workers that they're bonding to bring in. I would bet, because of past practice and past history, that Mr. Levois is a relative of G. Levois, which would be a violation. You're not supposed to be bonding your family, your husband, or anything like that, which is another thing that we have caught consistently throughout this time of a wife creating a company and bonding her husband to come in and run their equipment. And then, finally on the H2 program, the idea that the whole thing is held together and fair because of the state prevailing wage rate, that's absolutely not accurate. I don't know if Ms. Bushy made a mistake when she said that, because it's not a state prevailing wage rate, it's federal prevailing wage rate, which is obviously something you could make a mistake about. But the issue is that the industry has changed from an industry that used to have an employee-employer relationship to where now everybody's an independent contractor. And the equipment that we use has gone from cable skidders and chainsaws to fellow bunchers, grapple skidders, processors, things like that, which has been a long time. I started in 1989 running the Delimmer, and that Delimmer was 20 years old at that point. So we've had mechanical equipment in Maine for a long time. The issue is that the federal government has said consistently to the Maine Department of Labor that they don't have the expertise to establish prevailing wage rate for these type of equipment. And if Maine would choose to go ahead and do it themselves, they may or may not accept it. So they've given us no ability to actually file complaints on the federal prevailing wage rates if Canadians are bringing in their own equipment. The other thing that I'd like to hit on this is that the landowners that testified throughout this that they didn't know and don't hold them accountable. Peter T. talked about Huber. I've spoken to Peter T. about Conifer. Huber hired Conifer, had American contractors have to leave. I brought that up with him. I spoke with other landowners about a company that's hiring bonds, YPC, in August, when all the people in my area were shut down and Canadians were allowed to keep hauling because the landowners' preferability. When I asked that YPC, thank you, Representative Bickford. When I asked YPC or the landowner if some of our contractors, some of our Americans could go down there, they said that they didn't want that. They wanted YPC to continue to haul. And like I said, in the case of G&H Trucking and Transport Regi, which is the same, the reason why none of these landowners want to do anything is because Transport Regi buys a lot of their wood. So they don't want them to go away. They don't want to upset the relationship they have. But when they say they don't know, that is totally false, because all the drivers that Transport Regi have are H2 workers. And so every time Transport Regi comes into Maine and picks up a load and delivers it to Ashland Report or something like that, every time they're violating the law. But it's allowed to happen because they're doing it for less. They keep the wages down, and it depresses the market for Americans that are trying to work. And I would just like to say the assumption that Mainers don't want to do these jobs is infuriating. It really hurts. These are some of the hardest working people that you'll ever meet. When they're driving by all these people's houses at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning on their way to go to work for a 16, 18-hour day, and for somebody to get on a public hearing that's supposed to be representing the state of Maine and say anything derogatory about Mainers not wanting to do these jobs is really insulting. It's really insulting for anyone to say that, because I don't know how some of these people can continue to keep up the pace that they actually do. None of these people will ever be able to retire. I mean, they'll just give up eventually and go on to something else, because you can't operate like that for those amount of years, and it's just really upsetting that somebody would even mention that in this. I would just finally say that this is happening, happens all the time. It's the reason why this bill is before you. I mean, we brought Governor LePage to Northern Maine and met with numerous truckers about it. Again, Representative Martin, I've given you a newspaper article about that. I mean, we did this all the way back to King. Administration after administration has chosen to look the other way on an issue that is happening, and Mainers are feeling the burden of it. In the end, this bill says that after 3 times, not even the first time or the second time, after 3 times, a landowner would lose their exemption. I mean, that's a pattern. They know what's happening. They can get rid of the people that are doing it right now and give others opportunity, but they don't want to. That's why the bill is before you today, and I appreciate it, and we'll take any questions.
Great. Thank you, Senator Jackson. So just to remind committee members, we have always had a practice of allowing sponsors to provide additional information at the work session, and that's what we just heard from Senator Jackson, some additional information that I don't recall hearing all of that at the public hearing, so I think it is additional information. So appreciate that, Senator Jackson. We have a couple of questions from Representative Bickford, followed by Senator Pouliot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say this sounds like a interstate and intercountry issue, which makes it already a federal law against sabotage, or however you pronounce it. And I'm going to make the motion not to pass.
Shocking.
So
I second it.
we have a motion from Representative Bickford not to pass, seconded by Representative Kryzak. Senator Pouliot, you have a question?
Yeah, actually, I thank you, Senator Jackson. I don't have a question for Senator Jackson. I had asked Julie to reach out to the Maine Forest Ranger Service to have either Don Mancius or Bill Hamilton come to the work session. And so I don't know if she could check to see if they're in the waiting room. I just had a couple questions for them.
Yeah, I think they are with us, and we also have Bill Graves as well, that I believe is a retired director that is with us as well. So maybe we want to hear from them at this point. Is Avery, do you know if Don Mancius is here? I don't see him on my screen.
I did let him in.
Yeah,
did.
I think Mr. Hamilton wanted to speak first.
Okay, so I'll get.
I have him in too.
Mr. Hamilton about their enforcement practices, specifically, on moving wood, if he could speak to that.
Sure. Mr. Hamilton? Go ahead.
Mr. Hamilton, we can't hear you. I don't think you're on mute. Would you mind checking your speakers or your microphone, that is? Do you have a headset plugged in by any chance?
I don't know if he's.
Can't hear you yet.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Bill. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's with us. Is Don Mancius with us? Maybe we can hear from him.
Yes, I am on. I am here to speak only to issues regarding the tree growth tax law. Mr. Hamilton can speak to the enforcement issues. I'm going to try and message him right now.
If he opens the link on his phone, he can have the option to call in.
Okay.
That might be better if something's going on with his computer.
He can hear us. No, we can't hear you yet.
So Don, do you want to speak now, or?
Like I said, I can only speak to questions regarding the tree growth tax law. Mr. Hamilton can speak to enforcement issues.
Okay. Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, Senator Pouliot.
I think one thing that Mr. Mancius could perhaps enlighten us on is if there's any kind of connection between Maine's tree growth program and independent logging contractors.
There is not. The tree growth tax law was enacted to promote long-term forest management by setting valuations for forest land that's in the program at the value for growing timber as opposed to current use. There's no connection otherwise.
Great. Okay, so we're still waiting for Bill Hamilton. Why don't we hear from, wait, I just want to make best use of everybody's time here, so I don't want to spend a lot of time waiting for someone to get connected when we can hear from somebody else. Is Bill Graves with us? Maybe we can hear from Bill Graves at this point.
Actually, Senator, I have a quick question for Mr. Mancias, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you very much. And thanks, Mr. Mancias, for coming back and talking to us. I appreciate that. My question, I understand that the contracting has nothing to do with the tree growth program. However, is the, it's one of the tools that the logging companies have. They have the tools of using the contractors. They also have the tools of using the tree growth program. Is that correct? To run their business, that is, to run their business.
Forest landowners can choose to operate their land any way they wish within the confines of the law.
Okay.
Whether it's using contractors or employees.
Okay, great, thank you.
So I have a question. So, Mr. Mancias, do people who receive the tree growth tax credit also often hire loggers?
The people who are, the tree growth tax law relates to taxation of the land. The woodland needs to be managed according to a forest management plan, and it is up to the landowner to decide whether they hire employees or use contractors. And typically, everybody is using contractors to harvest wood on their ground these days.
Right.
From the smallest landowners to the largest landowners.
Whether they hire people directly or they hire an independent contractor to do the work, there's still the connection between those who receive tree growth and those who, in hiring of somebody, some entity, somewhere to do the work that needs to be done on the land. Mm-hmm. And that includes hauling logs off the land and bringing them somewhere else, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've just given this a lot of thought over the last week, and we heard a lot about the tree growth tax program at the public hearing and that substantial tax benefit of that landowners receive, and how essentially the other landowners that don't get tree growth in Aroostook County and across the state are essentially paying more taxes to make up for those that are paying less because they get this benefit. And so I really feel like, I just feel like, we're providing this substantial tax benefit to the landowners that we should do everything we can to make sure they're hiring U.S. workers and getting people in the state to work. Is Mr. Mancias with us? How about Mr. Hamilton? Are you with us now, or?
I just let him in the room. Let's see if we've got some sound. We'll give him a sec. Can you hear us, Mr. Hamilton? Just got to unmute. Bill.
We see you, Bill. Can you hear us?
How's that? Bill, can you see us?
Yeah, he's having some technical issues. How about Bill Graves? Is Bill Graves with us? Can we hear from him at this point? Bill Graves?
He is on.
Yep, and he's unmuted.
Oh, there he is.
Can be okay?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Graves.
Go ahead, Bill.
Just to clarify.
We can't hear you very well. Could you can you speak up any louder?
Is this any better?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Just to let you know, I retired January 1st, 2020. And my official title is Regional Ranger.
I cannot hear anything. you're
Yeah,
saying.
we can't hear you, Bill, very well. I'm not sure where the microphone is for your computer.
Is this better?
We can barely hear you, but we can hear you a little bit.
I'll do the best I can here. So I retired January 1st, 2020. My direct supervisor was Mr. Hamilton.
I still am hearing very
Yeah,
low,
we
almost
can't
nothing.
hear you, Bill. Maybe we can, our clerk, if you could call our clerk to get a phone number, maybe you could call in on the phone or.
I think that's gonna be the best idea.
Yeah, I sent you an email this morning that has the clerk's phone number. If you want to call her and connect and get a phone number, a way to call in. We would like to hear from you as well as Mr. Hamilton as well. We're just having a lot of technical issues this morning. Is there any further committee discussion? Anyone else from the committee have any?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So while I'm in complete agreement with Senator Jackson in his effort to protect Maine workers, I have some deep concerns with the portions of this bill. My number one concern is punishing someone other than the employer for violating employment laws. I contract for the Postal Service and they mandate that I follow all state and federal employment laws. If I choose to violate these laws, I'll be held accountable by the appropriate state and federal agency as well as the Postal Service. If the state hires private contractors to repair a bridge and they violate labor laws, would the state be held accountable for the contractor's actions? My second and final concern is the tree growth program being used in the manner suggested. This program has like termination penalties that would become complicated if a landowner was to be forced out of the tree growth. As a small business man, I'd be happy to be part of a bipartisan effort to protect Maine's workers and maybe a study of how this is being, how the visa program is being violated and address it more directly that way. Would be something I could get behind. Thanks.
All right. So do we have any of the technical issues worked out, Avery, with folks that are trying to address the committee?
Still can't hear you, Mr. Hamilton. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, he hasn't called me. I think probably the easiest thing would be if he just opened the email on his phone and then there's a number of phone numbers that he can just click on and dial into the meeting that way.
It looks like he's on the phone with somebody now.
I think I just let him in. Hold on one sec. Bill, can you hear us now? Oh, it's just not happening. Hold on one sec, Bill. I think, Bill, if you look at your phone, it should have a mute button on it. And if you can undo the mute button on your phone, I think we might be in business. Oh, there. Oh, how's that? Okay.
Go ahead.
So Bill Hamilton, that is, if you mute your computer screen,
yeah, I just
and then
muted him.
unmute your phone, I think we're going to be okay.
I just muted his computer screen, so you just
Great.
need.
And now unmute your telephone. Unmute the phone part. Oh, it's so confusing. How's that? not working, Avery. Oh. Throwing the phone away. Oh, that's too bad.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, go ahead, Senator Puglia.
why doesn't he just call Avery and then she can just put her phone next to her speaker?
I could do that. I hadn't thought of that, but sure.
Can you just say what your phone number is right now so that he can call it? Apparently he can hear us.
Yeah.
Oh, he can hear us?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. I do not know my number off the top of my head. So pulling that up.
287-1552. 287-1552.
He hasn't called yet.
Okay.
Oh, there he is. Hi. Okay, are you ready? I'm gonna put you on. All right, we're trying it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Avery, just shut off your speakers.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill. Bill, go ahead.
Hold on a second. Is that working?
It was working.
It was? Okay.
You just needed to keep talking and your speakers needed to be turned off. That's what was causing the
Yeah,
feedback.
don't mute yourself. Just turn your speakers down.
Okay, Bill, try talking now. On your phone, yeah. It's really low though, Avery. If there's any way to I'm throwing the volume up on my phone. Maybe it'll help.
I really hope this is all worth it.
Me
But
too.
I have something that's so enlightening to say that you'll all be terribly impressed.
Terrific. We can hear you now, I believe. If everybody turns their own speakers up on their computers, I think we'll be able to hear you. Go right ahead, Bill.
Our involvement in this conversation stems from an agreement that we've had with the Department of Labor probably for more than 10 years. I'm going to say maybe even close to 15 years. And my folks typically come in contact with loggers and truckers in the performance of their duties when they're doing regulatory inspections for timber harvesting, Forest Practices Act, potentially in timber theft, trespass, those sort of issues. We came to an agreement with DOL since they didn't have as much field staff as us involved with forest management, forest logging industry, to provide them with information when my folks during the routine business that they do come in contact with what appears to be Canadian loggers. And so we record that information. Is this working at all?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I can't hear anything now.
Avery, can you unmute yourself? I'm sorry. I think I might have done that. I apologize so much. Sorry. Thank you. Go ahead, Bill.
They come in contact with Canadian workers, and whether they are bonded, unbonded, legal, illegal, isn't really the determination of the forest ranger. They just pass on the contact when they come in contact to to the Department of Labor. Obviously, Department of Labor are the labor experts, not forest rangers. So over the past 3 years, I got to turn my own screen here. Over the past 3 years, my folks tell me that we've made 125 submissions, I guess, for lack of a better term, 125 folks or inspections or contacts onto DOL, and we find about 20% of that turns out to actually be Canadians. In terms of how many of those are violations, they're labor law violations, and again, forest rangers aren't labor law experts. That's the DOL issue. So I don't know what else to pass on. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but we come across loggers in a routine performance of our duties, and we pass, when we do come in contact with what appears to be Canadian workers, we pass that information on to DOL through an agreement, and actually, I think it's in statute as well. If you look at the statute, Department of Ag, Forestry and Conservation, and the Department of DAFs are both required to pass field information on to DOL. Oh, sorry, I got a hand up there.
Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Senator Pouliot.
Thanks. I'm glad we're able to work this out. And Avery, thanks so much for being helpful in getting connected. My question for Mr. Hamilton is, in his experience, based on interacting with these individuals or his staff interacting with these individuals on a regular basis, is this legislation necessary to stop the practice of cabotage?
I'm not really able to answer that question because I don't come in contact with them directly. Folks who work with me do, and as I said, over the last 3 years, we've had like 125 contacts with them. And again, that information is passed on to the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor would be the ones who would make the determination whether this law is going to resolve any problem which may or may not exist.
Okay, so you're saying 125 times a year you see a violation of cabotage?
125 contacts over the last 3 years that we have supplied to the Department of Labor.
Okay, and those were cases where cabotage was happening, or just you were making touch points with loggers?
Right. Again, we don't make the determination whether a labor law was violated or not.
Right, got it.
We don't have the expertise, the training, or frankly, authority to pursue labor law violations. So we just pass the information on to the Department of Labor.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Terry, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you. And Mr. Hamilton, thank you so much for your patience with us, and Avery as well.
My apologies for the technical. I mean, I do this every day in and out with Zoom and Teams. I don't know what the heck's going on.
Yeah. That's okay. It's electronics. It's crazy. So my question for you is the DOL the only entity that gets your information, or do you pass your information on to other people in different, or into other departments, that is, in other parts of your scope of practice? Do you, if someone starts a fire, do you send that to the fire department? If as far as information that gets passed from department to department, are there other places that you that you send your information to?
If I understand the question correctly, yes, we provide information to other agencies, but not about labor law issues. Only the DOL for labor law issues. Now, we have cooperative agreements with DEP and LERC and other agencies that if we come in contact with what mud in a brook, maybe a bad example, but some other potential, our folks see as a potential issue, we do have agreements to pass information on to other agencies. But in terms of labor law, only the DOL.
Okay,
Does that
thank
answer
you.
your question?
It does. Yes, it does. Definitely. Thank you.
So any further questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Hamilton. Avery, is Bill Greaves with us in some form? Do you know? I mean, we weren't able to hear him either. Do you know if that's been worked out? Avery?
Oh, Avery can't really hear us because her mic is down.
Oh. All right. So I guess, I mean, I'm not sure that maybe there's people on the committee that are undecided at this point, but I mean, we've heard from a few people. We have 4 other bills we need to take up this morning. And so we have a motion on the table of ought not to pass. It was made and seconded. So I guess we need to take up that, and see where that goes and proceed. Seeing no further discussion from the committee. Go ahead, Senator Pouliot.
Thanks. I was wondering if there's anyone in the, I can never see who's here and who's not here. Anyone here from the Department of Labor in the waiting room? I just have a question about the line of questioning that I was asking Mr. Hamilton. It would seem it would be more appropriate for someone from DOL to answer.
I'm not seeing anybody that's on here as DOL. But I don't know all of the names, to tell you the truth. Avery, do you know the departments of the folks that are in the waiting room?
Yeah, Avery can't hear us, I guess.
No, I'm back. I can now. Okay. I see Anya Trundy, Peter Lacey, John Sagasser, Daniel D'Alessandro. Those are the only names those are the only department names I recognize.
Yeah. Senator Pouliot, is there somebody in particular that you know that may be with us?
No, I didn't request anyone from DOL. I just didn't know if anyone from DOL might happen to be here. And now would be a good time to just like maybe unmute themselves and pipe up. Oh, they can't because they're not a participant.
Yes, I would have to let them in.
I don't recognize any of those names as anybody from DOL, so
Nor do I.
I don't think we have anybody from DOL with us. Any additional questions from members of the committee or discussion? We have a motion on the table of ought not to pass, so we need to take that up, I guess. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hands. The reactions button at the bottom of your screen.
It looks like we may actually have a couple more questions, Senator.
Do we? Okay.
Could we get Julie to take down the screenshot?
Julie, can you take down the screen? Thank you.
And also, just so you guys know, when you do any of the reactions, they don't translate to YouTube. So for those watching, they're not going to know how you're voting. So I would recommend physically raising your hand.
Yeah. Okay. We can always read off I mean, you can read off the names of those in favor and read off the names of those opposed, right?
Sure.
Yeah, we can do a roll call. Julie, do you have a question or something to say?
Not a question, but I do have the vote from last year, if you still want to hear that.
Yeah, that would be great.
The vote was divided. It was 9-4, and the people voting, the 9 voted ought to pass as amended, and 4 voted ought not to pass. The 4 voting ought not to pass were Senator Pouliot, Representative Bickford, Representative Arata, and Representative Marian.
So what we'll do is we'll take a vote. We'll have Avery read off the names of those that voted in favor and those that voted in opposition, so it's clear how everybody voted when the vote's taken. So all those in favor of the motion, which is
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Senator. I'm so sorry. Representative Sachs, it looks like you have a question first.
I did. I understand that the sponsor had proposed several amendments to the bill. And so if will there be, after this vote on the proposal, will you then ask for the alternative report, or how does that go? Because my understanding is we haven't really talked about the amendments or anything.
Yeah,
I understand expedition, but I want to make sure everybody's clear, including me.
We're going to vote, and if the motion carries, then it ought not to pass. And then those who want to be in a minority report can talk about amendments. And if the motion doesn't carry, then we'll have maybe another motion of some sort that we'll vote on, and we'll proceed accordingly. So we need to know if the
Thank you. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Any further questions from members of the committee? I see no hands up. All those in favor of the motion ought not to pass, please signify by raising your hand. Avery will read off the names and then we will then have those ought not, we vote up against the motion, then she'll read off those names. So look like there's 5 ought not to pass. You want to read off the names, Avery?
Right.
Can I just, per the rules, I think from the Legislative Council, can I just have Rep. Bickford come on camera for this? Thank you.
Read off the names, Avery. You can.
Okay, so those in favor of the motion, I have Senator Pouliot, I have Representative Hanley, Representative Kryzak, Representative Bickford, Representative Carmichael.
Great. All those opposed to the motion, please signify by raising your hand.
Okay, for those opposed to the motion, I have Representative Perry, Representative Socks, I have Representative Collings, Representative Terry, Representative Gramlich, Senator Chipman, and I think that's it.
Great. So that motion does not prevail.
Nope, I didn't hear
No,
my
I
name
didn't
read.
get Representative Matlack. Representative Matlack.
Thank you.
Everybody now voted. Great. The motion is defeated. The motion does not prevail. Is there another motion from a member of the committee?
I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead, Representative Terry.
Thank you. I represent, I'm sorry, I make a motion ought to pass as amended, as per Senator Jackson's amendment that he brought. And I'd like to speak to it if I can for just a second.
So there's a motion by Representative Terry of ought to pass as amended. Is there a second, Representative Matlack?
Yes.
It's motion made by Representative Terry, seconded by Representative Matlack of ought to pass as amended using Senator Jackson's amendment. And Representative Terry would like to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Senator. My frustration with how this kind of had to be is really with the on the federal level. We have laws all over the place that are federal laws that are supposed to be enforced. And we don't have the federal government doesn't apparently have the means to do so. I think in that case, the states really need to step up and make something happen on the enforcement level. We don't have the same kind of enforcement tools that the federal government has, but what we do have are credits that big companies are allowed to use to promote their business, to better their business. And I appreciate that. And I'm a firm believer in a private-public partnership. I think that is an incredibly important tool that states have in order to promote business. It is also a tool that we should be able to use when a business is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. This particular industry has, if nothing but anecdotally, issues on this particular matter. And the place where it hurts the most is always in the purse. Again, for a company that's doing all of the right things, I think that we are required to help them with their business, because we want them to stay in the state. We want them to thrive here. We want them to have all of the tools that they need. But when they do things that are not okay, we have to be able to take away some of those tools that we give them. This particular bill is a 3-strike rule. If one company hears that their contractors are not doing things that they're supposed to be doing, then they can take care of that contractor. It'll never be heard from again. However, if it's a consistent problem, I think that we are, it's our duty to be able to penalize these companies for our taxpayers. So I feel very strongly that the federal government should be doing its job in this particular case, but because they're not, I think it's okay for us to pick up the slack. It's unusual for sure, but I think that if that we're at that frustration point now where something needs to be done, and I think we have the means to do it. So I thank you. Yeah.
Representative Matlock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Representative Terry. The discussion we had last week with the landowners and other people who are responsible for these contracts was basically a shrug of the shoulder. Contract language is what they say is their enforcement tool, but they do nothing beyond putting it into their contracts. They don't check on where these contractors get their drivers. They don't check on how the drivers are operating, whether it's between Canada and the US and a return to Canada, or between American, especially Maine communities. So I think that they need to be more serious about enforcing their own contract language that says that they will not hire people or they will not contract with people who are not enforcing the law. They need to step up and do the work also. And encouraging them by saying, we're going to give you 3 chances. And after the first chance, you get to clean up your act. After the second chance, you do also. But after the third time, that means you're really not enforcing your contract language, and that you lose the benefits of the tree growth discount that you're getting, and that you need to be held responsible for what you are doing. Agreed that this is a federal law. The federal government is not enforcing this, but it's also impacting people within our state, people who want to work, who are being avoided, people who are not being hired, American Maine workers who are not being hired by Maine property owners to do the work that they are trained to do. And I am in support of this bill.
Representative Bickford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a lot like the state having laws against speeding, against running a stop sign. When you get enough points off your license, the state's going to take your license away. The municipality can't turn around and say, well, if you get 2 speeding tickets in our town, we're going to take your license. We don't have that jurisdiction. This is a federal issue. Let the federal government take care of their issue.
Yeah, but with all due respect, Representative Bickford, it's a state issue in that we have a state tree growth tax program that is giving a substantial tax break to landowners. And we know there's a problem going on. We know that Maine workers are being looked over and not being hired to do this work, and they're losing work as a result. So I think that's where the federal government's not doing their job. We need to step up to the plate because the state taxpayer dollars on the line. We're all paying more taxes so the landowners can pay 10 cents on the dollar in taxes. So
shame on the federal government then. Talk to the senators and our Congress people and get them to make sure it's enforced.
Additional discussion, Representative Kreisler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My concern with using the tree growth, I bought a 65-acre lot in northern Maine on a lake, and it was already in tree growth. It cost me $9,000 to take 1 acre out to build a camp. If you take one of these companies that have 1 million acres and tell them because they had 3 drivers get on their land that came from Canada, unbeknownst to them because it was by a contractor they hired, they're going to take all that land out of tree growth, and there's all that lakefront, all that riverfront that they're going to have to pay those taxes on. So they might as well just go ahead and sell it. And there's a lot of people that would love to have a piece of land on a lake in northern Maine. The reason for tree growth is to keep that from happening, for all these new lakes to be developed and people to be building, condominiums and things like that in these beautiful areas. I don't think taxing somebody that has gone with tree growth is the way to go. I have 180 acres in forest here in Acton, but I'm not in tree growth because I bought it as an investment to send my kids to school. So I wanted to be able to sell some lots to pay for college. But, to punish somebody that's kept all that beautiful land available, and they make it available for hunting and fishing and hiking and snowmobiling and everything else. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Go ahead, Representative Terry, followed by Representative Hamlin.
I just wanted to really quickly, and I don't want to stretch this out any longer than it really, really needs to, but I would like to make sure that Representative Bickford knows that I personally am going to talk to our federal delegation about this this problem. I believe it's been spoken, they've heard about it for a long time, but can't hurt to keep pushing it. And if they do, you know, figure out a way to make this to make this enforceable, then we don't need this law anymore. And to Representative Kryzak's point, the issue is not unbeknownst to these big landowners. I think that's the point of this, is that they will be given the first violation and the second violation, and then if there is a third violation, then they get the benefits taken away. So I think there's ample opportunity for them to fix a problem that they may or may not have.
Representative Hamlin.
Yes, thank you, Senator. I'd like to address the enforcement issue. I believe that any state enforcement agency, a sheriff or a state police or local, can arrest someone for counterfeiting money. It's a federal crime. So I don't believe there's an issue about how these laws get enforced. It's whether they get enforced or not. We can easily enforce the laws that are on the books. We don't have to do, this is already a crime. Let's enforce the law.
Representative Terry, do you have additional question or comment? No? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yep, go ahead, Representative Carmichael.
have we addressed how the penalties for taking the land out of tree growth is going to be assessed if they're forced out of tree growth?
We have not, but that's already in statute. If somebody takes their land out of tree growth, Representative Kryzak paid a fee to take an acre out, so there's already a process for that.
Well, I realize that, but they're being forced to take it out. So they're going to be forced to do something that's going to inflict a penalty. Don't you see an issue with that?
Well, that's the penalty for having workers be transporting products to and from your land that are in violation of labor laws. It would be the penalty after 3 strikes. It's a 3-strike bill. It'd be 3 opportunities to follow the law and make sure labor laws are followed. Additional questions, comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify. It's a motion not to pass as amended using Senator Jackson's amendment. All those in favor, please signify, and Ava will read the names, and then we'll hear from those in opposition. Please keep your hands up, Ava. We can read off the names, and then we'll have those raised hands that are in opposition.
Okay, I have Senator Chipman, Representative Terry, Representative Collings, Representative Gramlich, Representative Matlack, Representative Perry, Representative Sachs.
Okay, all those opposed, please raise your hand. If you can read off those names as well, Avery.
For those opposed, I have Senator Pouliot, Representative Kryzak, Representative Bickford, Representative Hanley, Representative Carmichael.
All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, so the motion prevails. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. And so actually this is for Madam Chair. If you are drafting a letter, one thing I heard from a very bipartisan point of view was all of our concerns about enforcement. So I'm wondering if you are planning to draft a letter, if perhaps you'd be open to circulating it to the committee so that we could potentially have an opportunity to sign on.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to.
Thank you, because I think that was a very shared concern for all of us.
Mhm.
All right, so that concludes the work session of LD. Go ahead, Julie.
Sorry. Thank you. Yes, I just mentioned the language that the sponsor suggested in his testimony for changes to the bill is not drafted in any form. And as I read through it, it appears to me that there are some issues that are ambiguous and will need further work in order to clarify what it is that's intended in order to be able to actually draft an amendment. So I just want to let you know that I would need to be working, I guess, with the sponsor, or if he would designate somebody to represent him, and with the folks from Maine Revenue Services, because he mentioned that he had talked to the folks from Maine Revenue Services in coming up with his suggestions. And they are also inquiring about what this language would actually be like, because they might have concerns about it depending upon what it is. So I just wanted to mention that situation to you, that we don't actually have an amendment in front of us to vote on right now. It will be something that will have to be crafted and put together and presented to you, I think probably, at a later work session.
Yeah, we'll have amendment review, right, like we normally do. So there'll be, the motion was ought to pass as amended using language that Senator Jackson mentioned and you discussed. So that amendment will need to be drafted. We'll do amendment review on that. But, all right, Representative Perry, do you have something?
Thank you. As long as we're going to be reviewing this language after this is drafted up, I think his amendment called for it to be a 2-year disqualification from tree growth, which I guess would mean you're paying current use tax rate for those 2 years. So I would question if it really was intended for the withdrawal penalties to also apply. I'd like some clarification on that it would just be a 2-year current use penalty and not what's already stated in law for a withdrawal penalty.
And Senator Jackson, you'll be able to work with Julie on that. You can unmute yourself.
Senator Jackson?
Sorry, the mouse is a little finicky. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to work with Julie, and I think Representative Perry hit the nail on the head. The conversation we had with Maine Revenue Services said that there shouldn't be infinite penalty. It should be something defined, and I thought 2 years was appropriate. I mean, obviously, it's not a long term, but it certainly gets the message across that you can't. So, anyways, yes, very much willing to work with Julie on this.
Great.
No further discussion that now, and conclude the work session on LD 188. We'll now go into work session on LD 179. This is an act to exclude energy efficiency improvements from property tax, sponsored by Representative Kessler. And Avery, if you could let him in, because I think he wants to come in to provide any additional information that you might want from him. If you can let him in, and then we'll have Julie now go through this bill for us. And if you can put this up on the screen, Julie, that would be great, so we can see the chart.
I am not seeing him in the waiting room.
Well, actually, he should be coming in soon, so if you can keep an eye out for him and then just let him in when he shows up. He's looking for the link, I think, at this point. So
okay, sure.
Excellent.
Okay. I just say it is a challenge to balance all of these electronics and paper all at the same time and take notes about what it is that you're doing. So it's like, sometimes we may need to go a little bit slowly on things. But you've got the chart back shared, I hope.
Yes.
Yes, okay. LD 179 is an act to exclude energy efficiency improvements from property tax. This bill provides a property tax exemption for energy efficiency improvements. And it requires the Efficiency Maine Trust to identify, make available, and list such improvements. The legislature passed a similar kind of thing 2 years ago, I think, with regard to solar and wind improvements made for residents, I believe. Energy efficiency improvements are improvements that meet or exceed the federal Energy Star standards or similar Efficiency Maine Trust standards, or improve weatherization in a manner approved by Efficiency Maine Trust. The issues raised at the public hearing were whether there should be more definition of what constitutes emergency energy efficiency improvements, and whether it was appropriate for the Efficiency Maine Trust to essentially be delegated responsibility for picking what kinds of things might be eligible for property tax. And there were also issues raised about the impact upon local revenue. Maine Revenue Services said that they weren't really able to estimate what the cost would be for reimbursing municipalities for 50% of the property tax exemption costs, because they felt that it wasn't really possible to determine exactly what the volume of property might be that would fall under this exemption. But they did say that they thought that they would need 2 new positions at an administrative costs of $190,000 to $210,000 a year to administer their role in making sure that this gets enforced appropriately by municipalities.
Okay. Avery, is Representative Kessler with us?
I am here.
Go ahead, Representative Kessler. So you're with us. Do you have any additional information you'd like to provide to us at this point?
Hi, I just got logged on here. Could you please summarize what you just reviewed? Was it just the whole bill?
Yeah, we just went over the points of what the bill is looking to do. Do you have any additional information you'd like to provide to us at this point?
Yeah, so really it is just about consideration of what the committee would like to do with this bill, and really what the original intent of the bill was, just so I can further explain the inspiration, was particularly around heat pumps on buildings and how those are valued. As we had talked about in the public hearing, when we reference Article 9, Section 8, that all taxes need to be assessed equally according to the just value thereof. Well, it's very clear that these are being assessed quite differently from municipality to municipality, and there are quite certainly very fixed costs to the installation of those heat pumps, and that information is readily available from Efficiency Maine in terms of being able to understand exact install costs, and you could even average those out statewide to come to a number. But it raises the question of when the tax assessor is looking at that value, some towns do it by just including it in its typical HVAC assessment. And some towns, like my town, do it by adding it on as an extra feature. And each of those apply a tax in a very different way. And some of those may be more unfairly burdensome than others. So I think it's important for the committee to consider establishing which is the correct way to assess this, much like we had to deal with LD 1430 last session and how solar is valued. We need to undergo that same process at least when it comes to heat pumps. And it's important to also understand that when tax assessors are placing that value on the components of the home, they will have a sort of scoring system where they may rate the heating system, poor, average, or good, and then that impacts the overall assessed value. Doing so in that way consistently across the state would potentially solve that problem of still being able to assess the value of that HVAC components across the board consistently. When it comes to how any potential energy efficiency tax exemption program could work, I understand that, you know, tax assessors will also grade insulation in a similar fashion where it may be poor, like you may have barely any insulation in the attic, to good, which is like a fully freshly insulated R60 attic. That if the committee does wish to extend that benefit to households that invest in efficiency, there are ways to really capture what those values are. I know that one of the people had testified in that there was no way to accurately capture the value of specific types of equipment, but there is, for example, a company called Pearl, and I would encourage you to just open it up in a tab as I'm speaking here. Pearl is a rating system where they actually they can assign an appraised value of the energy efficiency improvement of the home, and that helps assist their customers in fetching a higher value for the house. And so there are existing methods in which you can assign values. And so if the committee chooses to go down that path, there is a way forward to do that. I don't know if that would necessarily require as much staff resource as is being suggested, in particular because we do have a lot of existing data already where people could really identify, you know, particularly with Efficiency Maine, they have record of every single, you know, project that has gone through that would likely qualify for a tax credit. So if you crunch the actual numbers on that, we would have a more accurate picture of what that would cost municipalities if everybody took advantage of it. So all of that is just food for thought as you're brainstorming how you would like to move forward with this. But at the core, I think it's most important that we address, you know, how heat pumps are assessed. And I would say that if or that everybody could have their way if they were no longer viewed as an extra feature on a household, and it's just assessed along with the normal HVAC components.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to spew all that at you.
Discussion from members of the committee.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Senator Pouliot.
I would make a motion not to pass as amended with the
Motion ought not to pass by Senator Pouliot. Is there a second?
I second that.
Seconded by Representative Hanley. Committee discussion.
Mr. Chair, can I
Yes, there
just,
is.
my internet, I'm so sorry, my internet was a little bit spotty. Can I just clarify? Thank you, Representative Kessler, the same. Can I just clarify what the motion was? It ought to pass as amended or ought not to pass?
Yeah, whenever we have a bill with a fiscal note, we have to do ought to pass as amended with the fiscal note. This one has, it appears to be a fiscal note of about 190,000 a year for admin costs with MRS.
Yeah, that's what they estimated the cost would be. I mean, I guess once that goes through the fiscal note process, it may be a little different one way or another, but that's what they're estimating for two positions.
Right. So may I speak to the motion then, Mr. Chair?
Sure, go ahead.
Right. I actually liked Representative Kessler's suggestion. I actually would strip away the language regarding Efficiency Maine, energy efficiency improvements. What this bill, it sounded like, and was confirmed for me this morning by Representative Kessler, was the differential of assessments of heat pumps. and how that varies by municipality, which we heard from assessors. The inclusion of a heat pump or the presence of it is valued very differently. If we stripped out everything except for the consideration that heat pumps are included within the HVAC assessment, that solves the problem that the sponsor was trying to do without a fiscal note of most likely of impacting anything with MRS, which we'd have to see. They wouldn't have to add anything new because it's just standardizing assessment within municipalities to not have a heat pump as a standalone and included in an already ongoing HVAC assessment.
You're suggesting that it just be added to the list?
Within an HVAC assessment and strip out everything else to do with this bill, because the problem that the sponsor is trying to solve is the fact that they're being valued or assessed differently across municipalities. If we as a committee said, we understand that, put that within the HVAC assessment, that should solve the problem without the fiscal note, without and accounting for different variabilities within communities.
Are you open to that, Senator Pouliot, as the amendment?
That's fine.
Okay. We have a question from Representative Hanley, and Julie has something as well. Go ahead, Representative Hanley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an ought not to pass motion, correct?
No, it's ought to pass, actually.
Ought to pass as amended, correct, Senator Pouliot?
Okay,
Correct.
then I withdraw my second.
So we get a motion from Senator Pouliot. Is there another seconded by Representative Granville? Any further committee discussion? Julie, you have something for us?
Yes, I'm sorry, I've gotten confused in my trying to take notes. Senator Pouliot's motion was
Ought to pass as amended, and he's
with fiscal note only?
well, he's willing to go with the language that's suggested by Representative Sachs about adding heat pumps to the list of HVAC criteria that's used for assessments. Maybe you can state it better, Representative Sachs.
Yeah, that and strip out everything else in the bill, because then that would preclude any, it solves the problem that the sponsor had stated was the impetus for the bill, which was the variability of assessments.
So as I'm understanding it, Senator Pouliot is incorporating Representative Sachs' proposal to essentially replace the bill. It would no longer be a property tax exemption. It would be a requirement saying that when municipalities are valuing property, that they need to include heat pumps within the HVAC equipment of the I don't know much about this type of equipment, so forgive my ignorance, but
what I heard from Representative Kessler is I'm sorry, Julie, what I heard from the language I think you're looking for is the standard HVAC assessment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't imagine there is such a thing as a standard HVAC assessment. I imagine that municipalities are probably treating HVAC separately. I mean, I'm not even sure whether that means, you know, you have a sophisticated system that air conditions your whole house, or whether it means you sticking an air conditioner out of your bedroom window. So I plus it's the Constitution that requires that it be just value of the real estate. I'm not sure. First of all, I would need to work with Maine Revenue Services, I guess, to figure out how we would go about saying this. We don't ordinarily refer to particular elements of the valuation of real property. I think I also wanted to mention back 2 years ago when the exemption was enacted for solar and I can't remember whether it's wind now too, but anyway, there was some unallocated language directing Maine Revenue Services to develop guidelines to provide to municipalities on how to value this type of property, because the same issues were raised that municipalities were valuing them differently in one municipality than in another municipality. So I just wanted to mention that in case you might want to include similar types of language in your bill, so that Maine Revenue Services would do some work, and the language from 2 years ago said working with a stakeholder group to prepare a report that includes guidance for determining the value of this type of property. So that there would be state level guidance to municipalities on how they should be doing it to hopefully avoid inconsistencies from one municipality to another.
Julie, my understanding is there's some municipalities, I believe South Portland being one of them, that are looking at this as a separate piece of equipment from HVAC. It's its own piece of equipment and they're assessing value to it. So I think Representative Kessler was suggesting that it be added to the list of items that are used in the scoring criteria for HVAC systems when they're doing assessments. Maybe Representative Kessler could chime in and correct us on this, but could you help us out, Representative Kessler, with exactly what we're trying to do here with the amendment?
Well, it sounds like the amendments that is being proposed is just adding on the fiscal piece for staff and everything, but I think it's also important for the committee to consider. I don't believe that there's truly a true fiscal impact analysis done yet, and we've actually not heard anything from Efficiency Maine. They've not provided any testimony, and sadly, I have not been in recent communication with Mike Stoddard on this bill, so it's not on their radar at this second. But there is going to be a very clear fiscal impact if there is an analysis of all of the Efficiency Maine projects that have been done. And I think that there needs to be more work done to just understand how the process would technically play out between Efficiency Maine and Maine Revenue Services. So I would say I would maybe slow down a little bit and work it out a little bit more.
Well, didn't you, when we spoke earlier, Representative Kessler, I think you talked about a list of items that are used as criteria for scoring the value of HVAC systems and just adding this to the list. So can you elaborate on that for the committee? Because I think that's what we try to do with the amendment, is to avoid maybe hire additional people to administer this one particular part. If it can just be added.
So I think we may be talking about two things. One being just what you would assign that exemption value, but then on the other hand is how it is valued. So when it comes to how that gets valued, creating that one consistency across the state of how it's done is that one part. The other part is how much you want to assign that value. And then we would have a better idea of the true fiscal impact, because as we know, like with the homestead exemption, not even everybody knows about it. There's not a 100% uptake. And who knows if that would be the case if we move forward with this. So yeah, I just believe that it needs a little bit more time to work through some kinks and communicate with the departments. But I appreciate Senator Pouliot's eagerness to get this passed. So,
Representative Sachs.
Yeah, and I just wanted to, maybe I was oversimplifying it in trying to summarize the representative's intent for the bill, which was to solve a problem that he sees of heat pumps being taxed separately or valued and taxed separately, rather than integrating it into an entire valuation. As we heard from the assessors, that valuation is really dependent on neighborhoods. It changes statewide, and perhaps having, as Julie suggested, some sort of education around that. I'm actually less comfortable with other pieces of the bill, the expansiveness of Efficiency Maine and some of these other energy efficiency improvements. And so that's why I was looking to narrow this scope to solve the problem that the representative was looking to do. So I would not vote for this as it is. I don't know if you want to table it or whatever, but that's sort of my thinking around this.
Representative Bickford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my biggest question is for everything to be similar statewide, which is what this bill seems to be getting at. Valuations are being done separately in different towns based on the heat pumps. Then why wouldn't this be more of a guidance and training issue with assessors than to strike up a whole new bill? I mean, I'm a little bit confused with that. I'm all for tax breaks. Any way we can alleviate taxes for people is a great idea. But my biggest concern is this is more of a guidance and training issue to make it stable throughout the state.
Additional thoughts or questions from members of the committee? Seems like we may want to have a little more time to work on this. I heard the sponsor made that as a suggestion. But we have a motion on the table of ought to pass as amended. Representative Bickford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to make a motion that we table until we can get some better information.
Okay, so we have a motion by Representative Bickford to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by, is that Representative Carmichael?
Yes.
Okay. Seconded by Representative Carmichael. All those in favor, please signify.
Nice try, Representative Kessler.
Looks unanimous to me.
Okay, so that's unanimous. So that bill was tabled. So we'll now go back to the chart and see what we have left for, I think there's 3 more bills left that we need to take up. You want to bring the chart back up, Julie?
Yep, getting there.
Okay. We can go back to the top and see. I know we did cabotage and then this bill. So we've got LD 146. Why don't we go into work session on that now? It's a resolve authorizing the state tax assessor to convey the interest of the state in certain real estate in the unorganized territories.
Yes, so this is the annual bill for Maine Revenue Services for you to authorize them to dispose of property that they've acquired in the unorganized territory for non-payment of taxes. They did at the public hearing propose some changes to one of the pieces of property. There were some errors in the amounts of taxes that were actually owed, so they proposed an amendment to change those amounts to correct them for the actual amounts owed. But there's no additional properties or no properties being removed from the list.
Okay. All right. Discussion from members of the committee. To your bill, Representative Carey. We have questions from Representative Sachs, followed by Representative.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to make a motion of ought to pass on this bill, please.
Second.
We have a motion of ought to pass made by Representative.
As for Avery, as amended,
Yes.
to make the changes
Yes,
to
ma'am.
correct the amounts that
Yes.
need to be corrected.
Thank you, as amended.
Motion ought to pass made by Representative Sachs, seconded by Representative Bickford, ought to pass as amended. Further discussion from members of the committee? Can't see everybody, but I don't see anybody's hands up. So I guess all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand.
Okay, sorry, this is gonna take a minute because I don't have the full screen.
Hey, Julie, can you take the chart down?
Yep,
Thanks.
Thank you.
sorry.
There we go.
Okay, much better.
Used to be unanimous.
Yep, okay, that was easy.
That's unanimous of those present. So now if we can bring the chart back, Julie. We have 2 more bills left. So that concludes the work session on this bill. Bring the chart back. So we've done
179, 188.
Yeah.
So there's 199 Central Labor Councils and
Yeah. Let's go back up to scroll back up. I think it's 198 actually. Yeah, LD 198. So we're now going to work session on LD 198, an act to improve Maine's tax laws by providing a property tax exemption for central labor councils.
yes, this again was a similar bill that was reported out of committee during the second regular session last year and died on the appropriations table. The estimated fiscal impact for reimbursing municipalities 50% of the amount of revenue lost as a result of the exemption. What at that point was $1,625 for FY22 and $1,675 for FY23.
Okay, so this is a bill that we heard last session that we passed, but it didn't get through the appropriations table. We adjourned early because of the pandemic. Any discussion from members of the committee? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion ought to pass as amended. Or is it amended even though the fiscal impact is on there? It's not really.
Well, you've got a whole new bill. The fiscal impact is not on.
Oh, okay.
On
So
198.
ought to pass as amended then, Julie.
We have a motion.
For
ought to
fiscal note only.
Yes.
Ought to pass as amended. Motion made
And
by
I'll second.
seconded by Representative Matlack. Committee discussion. Representative Hanley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. How many actual buildings or facilities are affected by this law? Do we know that?
Well, I believe there's multiple central labor councils. At this point, there's one central labor council that owns property, so that could always change in the future. At this point, there's one that owns property that I'm aware of.
Another question, if I may. So is there any way to find out? I mean, they came up with a number. So how did they come up with this number if we don't have a count of properties and property values?
Yeah, they came up with a number looking at the one labor council that owns property, I believe, in the city of Brewer, and that's where they got the number from. That could change in the future. Again, if other central labor councils buy property, but at this point, we're looking at one that owns property. Representative Sachs, followed by Representative Terry.
Yeah, I just had a technical question about whether we had heard a lot about parity with other quote unquote like organizations. Is this bill intended to just add central labor councils to the same language or statute as, say, chambers or some of the other organizations they had talked about?
Yes, it does do that. If you look at the text in front of you, it's adding central labor councils into the current property tax exemption paragraph that includes chambers of commerce and boards of trade.
Thank you very much.
Representative Terry.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that and make sure that that Representative Hanley got that okay, that it's just to add to the other like-minded civic organizations that are already on the list of exemptions.
Representative Hanley, you still have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. My only concern with this is, and I've been a member of the labor union all my life, and so it's not from that perspective, but the labor unions are a group of people that get together, men and women, for an economic purpose. And I know that because I was deeply involved in it. So do we offer the same type of tax break for, say, Consolidated Contractors in Maine and their buildings? Because they're actually operating on the same principle of economic benefit for that group. They're not, labor union's not a charitable organization, they're an economic group. So I'd like to hear someone's opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, they do, we heard at the public hearing that they do a lot of charity work, putting on community meals and things like that, helping workers get work boots and jackets and things they need for a new job and stuff like that. So, Representative Bickford. Representative Bickford, do you have a question?
I just wanted to help answer that. They don't serve to make a profit. They're a nonprofit agency similar to Chambers of Commerce. And they don't own any buildings. There's only one building in the state of Maine that the Labor Council owns.
Yep.
Okay. Great. And Representative Terry?
Yeah, mine, same exact answer as Representative Bickford, that yes, there are other organizations that are also nonprofit that do benefit from the same kind of tax break.
Okay. Additional questions or discussion from members of the committee?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion not to pass as amended with a small fiscal note. Oh, it has. I'm sorry. I'll go
You
back.
seconded it, Bruce, I think.
Yeah, so we got a motion already on the table made by, I believe, Representative Terry about to pass as amended. Representative Hanley, do you have additional discussion? Representative Hanley?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I mean, my complaint is that it's not a complaint, it's just a concern, is that this is a real carve-out for just one piece of property. And they, again, the reason labor unions exist is for economic purposes, not for charitable purposes. That's why I know I belonged to one all my life. So, and I'm wearing it. If we open the door, does that mean that every labor union that comes along that buys a piece of property, are they going to fall under this law now?
And these aren't labor unions. This is the Central Labor Council, which is different. It's a collective of a bunch of different unions under one umbrella. But the I mean, I guess I would respond by saying that the Chambers of Commerce exists for an economic purpose as well. I mean, they're not a charity group, and they're getting the same tax break. Seems like we ought to just be fair across the board. Additional committee discussion?
I just wanted to say that we're not, this is not a carve out. This is actually opening the door to the exemption that already exists for a similar organization, or for similar organizations, because it could not just be one, it could be multiple over time.
All right, well, I guess it looks like we're ready for a vote. All those in favor, please signify. Maybe you could take this down, Julie, so we can see everybody. Great, thanks. All those in favor, please signify.
Okay, I have Senator Chipman, Representative Terry, Representative Collings, Representative Gramlich, Representative Matlack, Representative Perry, Representative Bickford, and Representative Sachs.
All those opposed?
For those
Y'all can
opposed,
lower your hand if you've already voted. Myself included.
Okay, for those opposed, I have Senator Pouliot. I have Representative Carmichael, Representative Hanley, and we might have Representative Kryzak. Hold on. His power went out, so he had to come back in.
Looks like he's on with his iPhone. Representative Kryzak, can you?
There he is.
Can we see your screen?
I am back.
Okay. How would you
We're
like to vote?
sending you another windstorm. It just took out my power.
Okay.
I hope it doesn't come up to you guys.
How would you like to vote on the bill on Central Labor Councils?
What's the
It's LD 198, I believe. It's a bill that we heard last session. You might remember it adds central labor councils to the list of property tax exemptions, similar to nonprofits and chambers of commerce.
And what's the motion?
The motion's ought to pass as amended.
Okay. Can I make a couple of comments before I vote?
Well, we've already voted. We just voted in favor, and those are in opposition just voted.
Yeah, you just came in right at the end there.
Okay. Oh, well, I vote against it. Ought not to pass.
Okay, so Representative Kryzak ought not to pass. Great. So that concludes the work session on LD 198.
I just want to make sure that the other people voting against the ought to pass amended motion are also ought not to pass. So that there is one minority report and it is ought not to pass on.
Yeah, that's correct.
With Representative Hanley, Senator Pouliot, Representative Carmichael, and Representative Kryzak.
Yes.
Ought not to pass. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Before we move on, can I just get some clarification for my records? I have the motion from Representative Terry. I have seconded by Representative Matlack.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So thought to pass as amended. So that motion carries. So we'll now conclude the work session on LD 198, and you can bring the chart up, Julie. We've got one more bill we're going to work session on. It's sponsored by Representative Foster. And it's, you can scroll down. Oh, there it is. Yeah. I can't quite see the LD number. But,
Yeah, and gotta move things around a little bit here.
I just want to apologize to the group too, trying to let Ted into the meeting. I let Representative Foster in, which you're certainly welcome to sit with us for this, Representative Foster. As it's your bill, if you could just
Thank
wait
you.
till it's all done. Yeah, absolutely.
There we go. So it's LD 351, an act regarding municipal valuation and state-owned property, sponsored by Representative Foster. So
Under current law, all state-owned property is exempt from property tax. What this bill proposes to do is to provide that the amount of exempt state-owned property in a municipality would not be able to exceed 10% of the total valuation of a municipality. It's not entirely clear how, if the state, for instance, had property that was 15% of the total valuation of the municipality, it's not entirely sure how that extra 5% would be taxed. If it was all one building, it's not particularly hard, but if the state owns 2 or 3 different buildings, it might be a little difficult to figure out how that would work. The bill doesn't provide for that type of situation. It's simply saying that the state property is only exempt essentially to the extent of the value of 10% of the total property, taxable property in the municipality. It would begin with property taxes assessed. Remember, all property taxes are based on the status of property on April 1st. It would begin next year, April 1st, 2022. And Maine Revenue Services has raised issues with regard to the constitutionality of the provision. I think they referred primarily to the issue of state sovereignty and whether it would be appropriate for the legislature to permit municipalities to tax the state, I guess. I'm not sure. You would want to ask them to explain that a little bit further. I think I'm not sure I fully understood their concern.
Yeah.
There were charts submitted by the sponsor after the public hearing. He had mentioned during the public hearing that he had some information. They are pages from data that's prepared by Maine Revenue Services with regard to taxable and exempt property and many other factors in each municipality in the state. There's a link on the screen. You can see it's in blue. You can, if you go to the chart, you will find the link there to find that information. And it is under the materials for this bill on that page, I hope. If it's not there right now, it will be shortly.
Okay, I wonder if we could hear from someone from MRS. It looks like we have Mr. Sagas in Well, actually, it looks like we have Mr. Sagister, Mr. Lacy, Mr. Delisandro, and Ms. Trundy, all from MRS. Avery, if you want to invite everyone in, and then whoever would like to speak to this can accept that invitation, that would be fantastic. We'd appreciate it.
I think probably it would be Mr. Sagasser if you want to start with him.
Would be
Yeah, I just let them in.
Okay, terrific. Thank you so much. Mr. Sagasser, whenever you're ready, if you wouldn't mind walking us through your constitutional concerns, that'd be great. Give him just a sec. Mr. Sagasser, are you with us? You might have caught him off guard.
Yes, no,
Oh, you okay, great.
I am here and I'm trying to stop the public forum stream.
Oh,
here.
sure.
So let me
Take
just
your time.
attend to that.
Okay, no problem.
I can't, all right, maybe I can mute it over here.
We'll know you're ready
There,
when you're
okay.
Okay.
And let's see, so do you have my video? I don't see my,
Don't have your video yet, but we know who you are.
okay. All right, I'm not sure why you're not getting my video here. There,
There you
okay.
are. Hello, welcome.
Yes, welcome. Good afternoon. Are we still, no, still morning?
Nope, still morning.
Yes. And unfortunately, I've got a little echo from the public forum stuff, but I can just handle it anyway.
Okay.
So I'm John Sagasser, Tax Policy Counsel for the Office of Tax Policy at Maine Revenue Services. And I think you were asking me to come on to go through in a little more detail concerns that we listed at the public hearing in our testimony. Is that correct?
Yeah, the specifically the constitutional issues that you guys raised.
Yes. So the issue there for this exemption is in statute, and the bill proposes to amend the statute to create a partial exemption in a particular manner. And I noted in the testimony the possible constitutional underpinning for the statutory exemption, and that would be sovereign immunity of the state, which is a basic principle that the state can't be sued, action can't be taken against the state without the state's consent. And waivers are not generally implied, and even explicit waivers are narrowly construed by the courts of law. Here, there's a partial exemption to give the municipality the ability to assess property tax against the state. The question is, well, what is the nature of that enforceable interest by the municipality against the state, and what would that enforcement look like? And it does not appear that the current manner of municipal property tax in the tax laws really contemplates enforcement by the municipality against the state. The standard municipal enforcement for property law is assessment. There's an appeals route, and there's also rights of foreclosure, where the municipality then takes title to the property through after a series of steps and non-payment. So that's the issue, that for the state to be, for there to be this enforceable interest by the municipality, it needs to be explicitly laid out as to the remedy. What kind of remedy would the municipality have that it would be enforced if there were a dispute about the valuation and if there was non-payment? So that's the constitutional issue. I would need to look at it further. The issues of immunity are involved, but the basic principle there is if it is waivable, assuming, I think that's still something that we'd want to research further, but assuming the state could partially waive its immunity, what is the remedy that the municipality would have? It does not appear that the current structure for property tax envisions the kind of action that would be necessary, and therefore it wouldn't be effective.
So essentially what you're saying is that if a municipality were to assess even partial state property and the state decides that they're not interested in paying that, the municipality would have no way of getting what they want, essentially.
Right, that without it there being an explicit waiver of the immunity and an explicit path of the kind of remedy that the state intended the municipality to have, then it wouldn't be given effect.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Sagasser while he's here? Actually, I'm so sorry. I see Representative Hanley, you might have a question, but if I could just ask one more, Mr. Sagasser, were there any other issues that MRS has with this?
Yes. Another issue is the class of property here is an important issue. So there are several issues. Thank you for inviting that. The question of what property constitutes the state of Maine property is not an open and shut question. There's the state of Maine proper. The state also acts through instrumentalities, and property interest of those instrumentalities can come in different stripes as well. So for purposes of practical administration, what is the class of property that's within the exemption? For purposes of valuation and for purposes of coming up with a fiscal note, it's necessary to determine, well, what is the property that would be within this exemption? Is the University of Maine system, is that the state of Maine? All sorts of instrumentalities you would have to address. And typically in this issue of identifying especially sovereign immunity issues, but other points where it becomes necessary to identify what is the governmental entity itself, it involves not only the description of, and especially if it's sovereign immunity here, what the particular grounds are, usually by case law, because it's a constitutional underpinning, and then applying that to the statutes that set up the particular instrumentalities. That's a focused situation by situation analysis. You can do it, but it's not something that's immediately apparent, and that would take time. Taking time for that is necessary to come up with a fiscal note. What is the class of property that this is addressing, as well as raising valuation issues, both as to the classes of property and generally. So that's the question. That's the what property is included in the state of Maine property. And that's necessary to identify, although the terms itself may be sufficient, there's a bit of time necessary to do the fiscal impact for that. That could be easier, of course, if the definition were somehow made clearer and more limited than just broadly the state of Maine.
Okay.
There's the issue of valuation itself. Some state properties are unique, and it's not clear how you would value certain properties. That again becomes a fiscal note issue, as well as valuation issues in assessment. That itself brings up a constitutional issue because of the requirement of fair and equal valuation of property. Another issue is the partial exemption approach. And this is a tier down as far as importance, or I guess, but they're all important. Right now, there are full exemptions and there are only a few partial exemptions. The basis of property tax exemptions appears to be again, a constitutional underpinning. It was accepted early on with the adoption of the Maine Constitution that there's the ability to create legislature to create property tax exemptions. There are only a few partial exemptions. When you get into partial exemptions, depending how they're structured, it can get into issues of whether there's fair and equal valuation of property across taxpayers. The homestead exemption that's in place is a specific dollar exemption. This is a percentage exemption. And our approach there is there's more risk and risk as to running into the fair and equal valuation, and that dollar exemptions are better than partial exemptions to be on the clearer side of that risk. And then I just had two others. I know it's a list, but you asked me to say more fully what were our comments. This is more technical drafting to sort out whether this is intended to apply to the UT or not. That's the language is a little mixed, and just a wording on using equalized value versus just value.
Representative Hanley has a question.
Yes, thank you,
Thank you
Madam
for
Chair.
waiting.
Boy, this is quite a can of worms. Thank you for your testimony. Is there any possible constitutional way to put a dollar amount specifically to one community that they could be awarded, I suppose, or allowed to collect each year based on a state property valuation in that town? Is there any constitutional path for this?
As a preliminary basis, but I don't see, there's not an issue that's I see there. Well, let me back up a little. Certainly, as an appropriation, the legislature has wide latitude to appropriate and spend money. There's far fewer limitations on that. And using a base as you suggested, seems certainly possible. There is, at some point, the issue becomes whether it's actually a property tax action rather than an expenditure action. So that's my caveat. And so I guess I'd want to think about it further and look at specific language. But there is certainly more latitude, less constitutional risk.
Thank you. Madam Chair, may I
Absolutely.
continue? Yeah, and Charleston is a unique, I think it's unique in the whole state of Maine, this one town, and its involvement with state property within its boundaries. I'd also like to, that's just a statement, so that's why I think it's kind of a unique issue we're looking at, but I'd also like to have Representative Steve Foster be asked to add his comments to this discussion.
Absolutely. Representative Foster, do you want to talk to us for a sec? You're on mute still. There you
Yes. Thank you, Chair Terry, and members of the Committee on Taxation for working on this bill today. I will not, it's good to see more members here when after your long day last week, I think there were 3 committee members left to hear this bill when I presented it.
We were
I
paying
will not
very
get,
much attention.
pardon me?
We were paying attention.
I will not go into the bill or my testimony. I believe you've had a chance to look at those. But to Representative Hanley's point, Charleston is pretty unique. You should have received, hopefully before the hearing on the bill, a couple of documents in addition to my testimony, one of which was a spreadsheet entitled State-Owned Property as Percentage of Total Taxable Municipal Valuation that I made up. The other one was actually a spreadsheet with 2 pages that I was unable to put those together because it comes off the cell information comes off from the state website for that. But that would allow you to look at all the towns in Maine to see how they stack up against this spreadsheet that I put together for those who have more than 10% of their total valuated properties that are state-owned. And that came down to basically 13 towns. And Limestone, you'll see that state-owned property is not included in their total valuation. And I'm not sure, I've been working on this and have not been able to determine why. As a matter of fact, Mr. Sagasar's office is trying to find that information for me as well. I've contacted the Maine Municipal Association, and I've contacted the town of Limestone to try to find out, because I assume that it was a special provision made for them. But that aside, most of the towns you see on that list, you already know why that's what their state-owned property probably mostly consists of. There are towns like Castine with Maine Maritime Academy and Orono with the University of Maine system and all of their properties. Almost all the towns on that list benefit greatly from having that state-owned property in place. And when I looked at and listened to the testimonies either against this bill or neither for nor against, I noted their concerns. And for instance, the University of Maine system, they would be very concerned if this bill were to go through as written. I did offer, although I didn't, because there weren't any questions during the hearing, I did offer that I would certainly work towards amending this bill based on feedback and also what I might learn might be possible. And I thank Mr. Sagasar for addressing that somewhat here today. The long and the short of it is Charleston has no business in town. They don't even have a mom and pop convenience store or a gas station. Yet almost 53% of their total valuation is the state prison. Now, not too many years ago, the state was very happy when Senator King got us $25 million, I believe it was at the time, to improve and expand that facility, which the entire state of Maine benefits from. At the same time, the town of Charleston was closing its school because it couldn't afford the property taxes that would, even before that 25 million investment, they couldn't afford the property taxes to keep it open based on the Maine school funding formula. So the long and the short of it is I'm looking for a way to help them out. One thing that I have found during my research since the hearing, that list, there are 2 towns on that list that have state correctional facilities within their bounds that meet that 10% minimum, if you will, that I have proposed in this bill. One is, of course, Charleston, and the other is Warren. And if you look at Warren, almost, 25.5% of their total valuation is state-owned property. They have 2 correctional facilities in town, within the town limits. Although they have a couple of small stores, gas stations, what have you, most of the business that might come from those facilities is probably beneficial to Thomaston, Rockland. For instance, there are no hotels in Warren if visitors to any of the those in those facilities want to stay overnight or what have you. So I have talked with Representative Pluker, who has that area in his district. He's the town of Warren, and I would certainly, if we decided not to kill this bill at this point in time, I'm in no hurry, and neither is the town of Charleston. This has been an issue for a long time, but I'd certainly look at the possibility of working with the Maine Revenue Service and others to try to determine a way to help out Charleston and possibly Warren, and leave aside the towns such as Orono that depend and benefit from having that large state-owned property, large valued state-owned property in their districts. I'd be willing to, answer any questions you may have, but I'm not a lawyer and I'm certainly not a tax expert. So thank you.
I have a question, Representative Foster. So you're saying that you're open to, and maybe I need a little help from Mr. Sagasser from this as well. You're open to determining a class of property for this particular type of state-owned facility, it sounds like. You know, for me, a big chunk of it is the constitutionality of the municipalities being able to effectively collect from the state. That feels like it would be a huge challenge for any town to be able to do that. So I'm very interested in hearing why limestone is not on that list, and if there is some sort of a something someplace that we don't know about, and seeing if perhaps you know, what they did might be a solution for you. It looks like Julie, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to mention that this issue has of the impact of state-owned property on municipalities, especially small ones or ones with a large amount of state property. And the way it has been addressed in the past, and I think that this is probably a way that would get around Mr. Sagasser's constitutional concerns, is to, instead of providing that the property is taxable, to require that the state make payments in lieu of taxes for property over a certain value, or even sometimes it's just been for state-owned property. So the municipality would essentially have to determine what the taxes would be on that property if it was taxable. That in itself is a little bit of a challenge potentially, because state-owned property is not taxable, never has been, therefore has never really been properly assessed in terms of determining what its value is potentially, because there's no need to tax it. So there's no need to put the money into assessing it. What we have in the information, that's the data that's provided to us by Maine Revenue Services on the charts that the sponsor has provided to you, and there are a lot more actually of the charts that are available. With regard to exemptions, they're estimates of value. They're not necessarily what the amount would be if it was taxable. That's sort of a sideline to that. But I think if what you were to require was for the state to make a payment to municipalities in lieu of taxes, there'd be no taxes, so there'd be no possibility that the municipality, that the state wouldn't pay. Or if the state doesn't pay, the municipality at least does not have the ability potentially to foreclose on the property and acquire it, which is problematic and certainly causes problems for the issue of state sovereignty. Yeah. It would simply be a question of whether the state had met its debts or not. And if the legislature decided not to fund it, then you potentially have a problem. But it wouldn't be the first time the legislature had decided not to fund something.
Representative Perry, you have a question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Representative Foster. And I apologize. I was one of the people who could not participate in the public hearing, and I don't have a second computer to look at the notes as we do this. Couple of questions. And my wife was one of the teachers at Charleston Elementary School who lost her job when they closed the school and consolidated. What's the mill rate out there in Charleston, and what impact on the municipal budget? These two jails are right there on Route 15, and I don't see where there's a significant impact on the
So somewhere in
municipality of Charleston, and if I miss. Yeah.
Thank you, Representative Perry, for that. I have somewhere here the mill rate, and I'm not sure just what that is, but in the documentation that I provided for you, you'll see that, and in my testimony, were this property not included in Charleston's valuation, their $1 million, I think it's $16,000 tax bill, if you will, commitment would be reduced by over $500,000, 53%. So that's.
Can you repeat that? You broke up, so I didn't hear it.
So in my testimony, I believe I've got it listed there, but it's a little over $1 million, the tax commitment for the town of Charleston after other things are removed and allowed for. And that portion that is attributed to the valuation of the main Mountain View Correctional Facility is a little over 500,000. And again, I think the exact numbers are in my testimony. So it's quite significant.
I'm looking, Joe, just so you know, at the list that Representative Foster gave us, and it looks like their mill rate's about 15.
And the first
sorry.
select person, Terry Lynn Hall, was, she participated in the hearing. You have her testimony, I believe. She's not on today, as far as I know. But, this has been an ongoing concern because, again, as they make improvements to that property, although I don't understand how it, how the assessing is done, because there is obviously some type of an assessment because the valuation keeps going up. So, and I think, as I mentioned, contrary to some of the other municipalities that have a large amount of state-owned property on this list, that facility lists 170 employees, and Charleston residents make up less than 10% at 16. So even that benefit is not a great one for them.
Representative Hanley, you have another question?
The question, of kind of a thought. Is it possible for Charleston to be allowed to remove that valuation when they're looking at the state school funding? Can Charleston be allowed to simply remove that from their tax rolls, the reporting of it?
I bet Mr. Sagasser could answer that question.
Exempt property is not included in state valuation.
Yeah, but I mean,
So
could
it would not
Charleston,
affect their education. It would not affect their education.
but would
funding
it
formula.
affect the valuation of the value of the town for the evaluation for the purpose of school funding, if you simply remove the Charleston value from the total town property?
It's already not included in the town, in this valuation for the town property, because it's exempt. And exempt property is not included in the state valuation.
That doesn't, maybe I misunderstood what Representative Foster said about the $1 million being reduced by almost $500,000.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear his comment, so I can't respond to that.
Representative Foster, you're welcome to respond to that.
Yes, thank you. I believe that the big effect that this would have on Charleston school funding formula would be how it relates to the district that it's in with Foxcroft and other towns in that district. I also believe that it would, having that property included, I believe, does affect their Penobscot County contributions, but I'm not sure of that. So
I think Julie is
Jones is shaking her head no.
Yeah. Representative Bickford, you have a question?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. So it sounds like all these nonprofits, whether state-owned or not, all nonprofits are not part of a municipality's valuation. So if they're not, they're already getting a huge benefit by not reporting that as part of their value to the state. So it's not impacting school funding. It's actually helping them with school funding because they're showing a lower valuation. I'm going to make a motion not to pass.
Anyone want a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Representative Chipman. Further discussion?
Senator Chipman.
So sorry, did I say Representative? My apologies. I was looking at Representative Perry because he had his hand up. Do you have a question, Joe, before we vote on this? Just a mute button. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I had lowered my hand after Representative
Oh, you did. Okay. Okay. Apologies. Thank you.
Bickford made his motion, but yeah, I was just gonna say, if we can find a way that this negatively impacts, I don't see it. I think everything is kind of exempt and pulled out of there. And so if you can prove, if there's information that shows I'm wrong in my thinking that this is non-impact, then I'd reconsider, but I'm with this motion.
Okay. All right, we have a motion on the table, ought not to pass. That's by Representative Bickford. That's been seconded by Senator Chipman. Are there any further questions, discussions? All those in favor? All right, and Avery, you just go ahead and read off and we'll lower our hands as you go.
Sure. I have Senator Chipman. I have Representative Terry, Representative Collings, Representative Perry, Representative Gramlich, Representative Sachs, Representative Matlack, Representative Bickford, Representative Kryzak, Representative Hanley, and Representative Carmichael. Are you voting?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Did you get Senator Chipman, Avery?
I did.
Okay, terrific. All those opposed?
Okay. For those opposed, I just have Representative Carmichael.
And Representative Carmichael, do you have, what would you like to propose? That it passes as is or as amended?
Yes, I'd like, well, as amended,
As
I'd
amended.
want to see, yeah.
Yep.
I need to ask what the amendment is.
The fiscal note?
Is it fiscal note only?
Yeah, and constitutional concerns addressed.
How? I mean, I think Mr. Sagasser is saying that he thinks that potentially it's an issue. We don't know the answer to it, that potentially municipalities taxing the state would be a violation of state sovereignty.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But I think that we could explore the stipend in lieu of tax payments, you know, that we could help the community in some way.
Okay.
And I'd like to have seen more work go into exploring how they are affected and what we can do to help them.
I agree with you very much, Representative Carmichael, and I would very much hope that Representative Foster pushes, especially about limestone, and to find out why that is the way that it is, and to definitely push for the reasoning, essentially, for why that is. So Representative Carmichael, is your motion to ought to pass as a payment in lieu of taxes?
That's probably the best way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Julie, do you think you can put that together? Yep. Okay.
Yes.
Terrific.
I'll get in touch with Representative Carmichael when I have something drafted to make sure it's what he has in mind.
Excellent. Great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Representative Foster, for joining us.
Thank you.
I guess that concludes all of our work sessions for the day. You have anything else, Julie, for us that we should know about?
I don't think so. I'm probably forgetting something, but I don't think so. You have a public hearing on the 9th, on Tuesday.
Representative Kryzak, you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I wanted to ask it when we were discussing the bill about
the union. Julie, can you tell me what the difference is between a 501c3, 501c5, and a 501c6?
Not without pulling up the Internal Revenue Code. I can't know. I know that Section 501 of the Internal Revenue Code is a listing a variety of different types of exempt organizations. 501c3 is the one that we ordinarily refer to. They're usually the types we think of that have essentially charitable or public service types of missions. I know some of the others are things like agricultural organizations or I don't know, I can't remember the others now, but there are different types under 501 that of organizations that are exempt from federal income tax.
Looks like,
Okay, and with the,
I can send it to you.
oh, that'd be great. So with the change of each number, they have different, they're allowed different deductions.
No, it's that they're exempt from federal income tax.
Okay.
Oh, I see what you mean. You mean people who make contributions to those organizations?
No, how they spend their money. If they,
If they're covered under Section 501 of the Internal Revenue Code, they are totally exempt from federal income tax.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Representative Gramlich?
Yeah, not to undermine anything Julie might have. I used to work for the Maine Association of Nonprofits, and the 501c6 are trade organizations. So like the National Association of Social Workers, for example, is a trade association. The National Association of Realtors is a trade association. They're membership organizations. The C3, like Julie suggested, is specific to charitable organizations that give back to the community. I'm not sure about the C5, but a C4 is a nonprofit that is engaged in more advocacy type work. And the distinction is such, there's about 35 different variables in the IRS code for 501s. And it depends on what type of business that they engage in, if that's helpful at all, Representative President.
Yeah, it is. I was trying to find out why the main chamber had a C6 and the AFL-CIO had a C5. So that helps a lot. Thank you very much.
No committee comments?
I do, yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Senator. So I had sent out an email earlier in the week asking about scheduling for folks. And it seems as though we're gonna try our hardest to start to get some more work done during Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I would probably plan to expect to be here longer than we have been because we have a session mid next week. We're going to have to postpone some of our work sessions that we had planned for Thursday. So we're going to start to tack those on to essentially the afternoons. So I just wanted to make sure that those who hadn't responded knew that that's what our plan was. We talked about doing work sessions in the morning because that seems to be the time that most of us are able to be here, those that Tuesday and Thursday. So when it comes time to having to go backtrack and do some extra work, the public hearings are usually easier for us to do that. So we can go back and read testimony and watch videos. Whereas the work session is where we usually try to vote. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody got that and understood what our intent was. Unfortunately, we will have to add Wednesdays eventually, but we're going to try to put that off as long as possible.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts too. I mean, I think that since we had talked about meeting in the afternoons on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the more I've thought about it, I mean, it just seems like by the time we get to this point in the day, some people might be burned out. So to go all day might be a bit much for folks. So we should really maybe think about that a little bit more. I mean, one alternative is we could have work sessions Tuesday and Thursday mornings and just have public hearings on Wednesday mornings. And that might take us to the early afternoon. But we essentially need to be taking up about 10 bills a week in public hearing and working 10 bills a week in order to get to our goals that the leaders have set for us. So we may have to make some adjustments to things as time goes on, but we do have a lot of bills we still have to get to. Representative Kryzak, you have something for us?
Yes. Yeah. Is it possible to work straight through and not have a lunch break?
I'm comfortable.
Yeah,
with that. Most of us
can
are
do
in the
that
kitchens.
as long as we have quorum. I mean, if we're
Well,
voting.
we
have
have,
to
yeah, we have been doing it, but since we're going to go into more, I was hoping that we weren't going to take a break and just, get the work done every day. That'd be great.
Yeah, we can. We just, if we're in work session, we have to have quorum. We have to have at least one senator and we have to have a total of 7 members here. So,
Yep.
sometimes members aren't able to be here, and I know we've got other places we need to be sometimes, but it would be really helpful if everybody could be here at the start of meetings, because sometimes we're waiting 5 or 10 minutes just to get a meeting started. And we may have to start at 9 o'clock instead of 9:30. And I know we're starting at 9:30 to accommodate you, Representative Kryzak, in your schedule, but as time goes on, we may have to start at 9 just to get started earlier so we can get through the work we have to do. We have a lot of bills still left to do. I think, 90 bills or something are going to be coming to us that we haven't even taken up yet, maybe 100. Then Matlock?
Yes, I would echo what Representative Terry was talking about. If we could add public hearings to Wednesday, that would be most helpful to me. I have other commitments on Wednesday. So it would allow me to, if I can't make it, at least be able to do work sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays and go back and watch the public hearings at my leisure.
That's what I was thinking, like Tuesday and Thursday mornings, we could have work sessions on like 5 bills on Tuesday and 5 bills on Thursday, and then have public hearings on 8 or 9 or maybe 10 bills on Wednesday, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, and have the bills grouped together by topic so that people that speak could speak to several bills at once. Is another thing we've done in the past, just to save some time and let everybody speak to multiple bills at the same time if they're similar in topic. So, and we can definitely keep a closer eye on the 3-minute time limit that we haven't really been enforcing that much, but I think we're going to need to going forward to keep everybody to 3 minutes or less. So yeah, great. Well, any other discussion from the committee, or are we all set for today?